Old Fashioned Football's 2024 Top 12 Fantasy Football Running Backs, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog is giving away $15 million in Best Ball Mania 5. Just sign up with the promo code OFFSGPN to claim your first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code OFFSGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Rhythm has the best AI picks and projections, and their college football product is about to drop. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Hey, what's up? This is Sam Acho, and you're listening to Old Fashioned Football.
Old Fashioned Football.
You make this deal right now, you pancake eating mother.
All right, deal.
Old Fashioned Football.
Welcome to Old Fashioned Football. If you're wondering who you're listening to, this is JMark. You can find me on the X at JMark Football. And if you're wondering who us is, that's at Old Fashioned FB. Before I keep going to talk about running backs, I just started about coughing. I don't know if you caught that. I'm going to introduce my co-host on the pod and in life. You can find her on the X at the Mark Mir. How you doing today?
Doing good for a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Sunday morning and coffee.
Haven't
had enough caffeine yet, but I'm getting there.
Bright and early. Yeah, we needed to fit this episode in, so we decided let's have a little coffee and talk fantasy football, because the only thing better than whiskey in fantasy football is coffee in fantasy football, right?
Sure. Yes. There's always time for coffee.
There is always time for coffee. That's true. I could drink coffee all day.
Sometimes I think you do.
Sometimes I do. You know what? It feels a lot cooler in here than it did our last episode.
Gosh. Our AC is fixed. Not that everybody needs to hear us complain. We're not complaining.
But it is nice to be back to our normal degrees here.
Mm-hmm.
What are we drinking today? Just coffee.
Just coffee. Taking, for those who don't believe us, we really are just
Pamel
drinking.
Park coffee.
But I did, to make it fun, because I didn't feel like adding anything in my coffee yet. I'm not caffeinated enough. It's too early. But I think some common things that people might put in their coffee, obviously Bailey's, Kahlua, rum chata.
Yeah.
They even make like those rum chata like coffee creamers. If to stay along the lines of whiskey, your mom, or I guess your parents, make really good Irish coffees.
Yeah.
With Jameson coffee, and they make I think brown sugar too goes in it.
I don't remember for sure.
I think brown sugar, and then like a homemade like fresh whipped cream.
Mm-hmm.
Later we will be having some cocktails with your parents.
Yeah.
We are going to take them to Revelton.
Yeah.
So I brought this in here. I don't think you can. We're never going to drink this.
It's easier to.
They switched their bottles too.
I know they're in plastic bottles. This one is glass.
Yeah, I love this. The bottle, if you can read it there, it's a whiskey and cream liqueur. This would be, I think, really good in coffee.
Yeah.
So
100%.
We have never tried that in coffee. Maybe we need to someday, but it's not going to be today.
I think I have, actually.
Have you?
Yes, because we have a big bottle of it in our fridge.
And you put it in
and I
coffee
think I've
once?
had it in coffee. Yes. I wouldn't say we've never had it.
You've never had it in the morning in your coffee.
That's probably accurate. I don't think I have had it in the morning. But yeah, we have had it. We have a restaurant that uses this and puts it with root beer to make a root beer float, and it is very good.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, we're going to talk about running backs, fantasy football running backs, our top 12 list. Of course, we did our quarterbacks on Thursday. Yeah, Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Go check that out. There's one more IFL game. If you didn't check out our episode on Wednesday with Matthew DeWaskin, he has gone 3-0 from his picks that he gave out on our show so far. and there's one left. So you got one more you can get down on. His big one, if you remember, he talked about the Arizona Rattlers being a 9-1 to win the championship. They, as underdogs, won last night. So that 9-1 championship is still alive. We're on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, of course, and the Sports Gambling Podcast launched their 32 NFL team previews. And as a bonus, each team preview will include a code word. Submit the 32 code word phrase, and you could be the lucky winner who gets a $500 NFL Circa Future bet. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on the SGPN app. All right, Mar, do you want to just jump right into our running backs? Do you have anything else you'd like to add beforehand?
No, I am ready to talk about this.
Do you have any honorable mentions? I guess
I do. I have several. I reworked this list a couple times, and I had 2 people in it, and then I realized somehow I missed 2 people. I was like, oh yeah, those are definitely in my top 12, and I was looking at my list and was like, oh my gosh, they're not in my top 12. What was going on here? So I had to shuffle people around.
This to me, this was a lot harder than the quarterback list.
Yes.
You agree?
To an extent.
To an extent.
I think it was easy to know, like, for me, it was more the ranking was harder. It was easy to know who I think should be in it, but factoring everything you need to factor for it was a little bit harder for the ranking. And I think my 2 through 4 could be interchangeable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I also have like kind of towards the back half, I have a couple that could be swapped around, but we got to rank them. So I ranked them.
Yeah. Towards the end, especially at number 12, I threw in a little bit of a wild card because I didn't have a real strong feeling on any certain person that, I need to put this person in the top 12. There were a handful that I thought could be in the top 12. So number 12 is a little bit of a stab, but I just wanted to add something a little fun. Who are on your honorable mentions?
2 guys who I know based on like current ADP, I don't even know where one of these is coming in for ADP. One is coming in at an ADP of 8.
Okay.
And I'm going to just throw out the Dolphins running backs. So Devon Chan and Raheem Mostert.
Mostert's getting drafted at like 30th, I think.
Yes. And so
there.
I know that Achan is healthy now and he did miss some games, but I was looking at like fantasy points for last season, and when they were both playing, they both were relevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but this is also a very like loaded, it's just a loaded backfield. This offense has so much talent, and I just don't know. I don't know if we're going to see if they both stay healthy. I think they're both going to be on the field. I think they're both going to be relevant. So I don't know if one's going to come up above the other. Raheem Mostert was RB2 last season, and he's not even being like in the ADPs to go from RB2 to 30 or something like you said. Because I looked at like top 20 for ADP right now.
Right.
And he's not in it.
Yeah. And to me, Raheem Mostert is being underdrafted. I mean, number 2 last year, all the way down to the 25 to 30 range. Devon Chan is being overdrafted. I know he's electric when he's on the field, but
he has those health is a concern.
Yeah.
But he does have those huge plays, those
Yeah.
breakout moments, which makes him exciting.
Yeah, true.
For fantasy football.
And then they also drafted Jalen Wright, the running back. So, and they still have Jeff Wilson. This is a team that obviously they pass a lot as well. And I do think their defense took a step back. So, they ran the ball a lot when they were ahead last year. They're not going to be as head as much, I don't think. And so I think that kind of comes into play. So neither one of them, I'll just say it now, made my top 12
I was going to say, based on how you're talking, I feel like they're not. They
aren't.
were initially towards the back in my 11 and 12 spot, and I moved them out because I realized, oh my gosh, I didn't have certain people who I was like, yes, they're in my top 12. No, they weren't. But I would put them right there, 13, 14, 15 range.
Yeah.
Right outside the top 12.
I like it. Well, let's start right at 12.
All right.
Shall we?
Yeah, go ahead. You go first.
Me? I thought it was ladies first.
I went first last time.
All right, I'll go first. My top, I kind of have 2 guys here because, well, one is dependent.
Do that.
One is dependent. If Zach Moss ends up taking a back seat to Chase Brown, Chase Brown's getting the first team reps right now. then Chase Brown is my number 12. However, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. So I'll leave Chase Brown as my honorable mention. How about that?
Okay.
He's my honorable mention. I wanted to put him on the list. I think if he gets the full workload or close to, that he could be that guy that's stepping in for Joe Mixon, who just finished 5th overall. But since we don't know how that's going to play out, number 12, I'm going to put Zamir White of the Raiders. I think this Raiders team is going to be better than people think. Now, I do think they're going to get their asses handed to them from the Chiefs after they brought a Kermit the Frog doll to training camp.
Mahomes has already addressed it.
Yes, he said it'll be handled when it gets handled. To me, that means on the football field. But anyways, I still think the Raiders have a good offense. I mean, I think Gardner Minshew is going to win that job. And I talked about on my quarterbacks episode that on my list, he almost made it, right? He's top 15 if he gets a start. Zamir White, very talented. He's looking buff as shit compared to last year. He's taken over for Josh Jacobs. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. They have Devonta Adams and Jacoby Myers, so it's not like – and they got Brock Byers now, who is a very good blocking tight end. He comes from Georgia where you have to block for the run. So their run game should improve just on that alone. I think Zamir White's going to surprise people. I think he is a fantasy football sleeper. He is being very undervalued. And, he's my number 12.
You're number 12. All right. Well, I have Rachaad White as my number 12.
I'm going to go ahead and throw out a boo to Rachaad White.
Really?
Yeah, he's on my shit list this year.
Why is he on your shit list?
Well, you make your case.
Combined yards last year, he had between rushing and receiving 1,539 yards, which is right up there. Like if you're looking at like total yards, like just for example, Breece Hall had 1,585, and then the next highest from there would have been James Cook at 1,567. So then you've got Rachaad White.
Okay. I have some problems with it though.
Well, no, that's not my only reason.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm also looking at like he had 64 receptions. He is targeted. He had six rushing touchdowns. He was a little bit lower on the touchdowns and only 3 receiving touchdowns, which is why he's towards the back end of my top 12. I'm sure you're going to say they drafted Bucky Irving as your reason.
Yeah,
part of your reason.
It's a huge part of my reason because the Bucs were in the bottom half. Well, not the bottom half. They were the worst team in the league for rushing yards per game. And I think they don't want to be the worst team. So I think Bucky Irving is going to see the field a lot more. I do think Rachaad White is going to still get carries, and I think he's going to get catches too. He catches the ball out of the backfield
for the
very
same
well.
reason that you're saying they need to up their running and everything. Don't you think that Rachaad White is going to be used more?
I think it's going to be Bucky Irving that ends up taking the rock because he's just a more of a he's built better to be an every down back. I feel like. So we're gonna.
You
have
don't
to
think that they could work as
one. Not as a number,
system.
Not as a number or a top 12 running back, in my opinion.
We're gonna have to monitor.
Bet.
Right? Yes. All
right.
right. You're 11.
My number 11, probably another unpopular opinion, Najee Harris. She made a face. If you're not on YouTube, Miranda just made a eek face at me with that one. Look, I think that the Steelers have really revamped their offensive line. They added some beefy dudes up there. They are set up to run the shit out of the ball. Whether it's Russ Wilson or Justin Fields is their starting quarterback, I think they need to run the ball to help the quarterback out. And I think that starts with Najee Harris. I know Jaylen Warren had a big part of the offense last year too. There was all this, is he going to take over? But I still think Najee is the dude. And I think he's going to get back to being one of those top guys that we've seen him in the past, just not the past 2 years here now. I know this because I have drafted him the past 2 years and he has been a bucket of disappointment, but I think he turns it around this year. And
bucket of disappointment is bucket of disappointment. Why he's not in my top 12, bucket of disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. And Sports Nonsense Whiskey pointing out Arthur Smith knows how to run the ball. He's done it everywhere he's called plays, and he will be calling the plays for him. Terrible head coach, but a pretty good offensive coordinator. So I think, you combine it all. I think Najee Harris will finish in that top 12. He's my number 11.
All right.
Even though you made an eek face at me.
I don't know. I was feeling like we don't have a ton of running back depth, but when we were making this, like there is more than you think.
Yeah, there is.
Because already our lists are completely different. We did agree that the Dolphins running backs are not in it, even though Achan is being drafted so high.
Yeah, crazy high, in my opinion.
My 11 is James Cook.
Okay.
Again, I just mentioned when I was talking about Rachaad White, combined total yards for rushing and receiving was 1567. He had he's a back that gets a lot of receptions, and they don't have Diggs on this high-powered offense. I feel like we're gonna see a little bit. This offense is gonna be a little bit different, but I don't think it's gonna take a step back, and I think it gives Cook possibly the opportunity to get more targets.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
And just because of that, just for reference, he had 1122 rushing yards and 445 receiving yards. If that goes up, I mean, his touchdowns were lower, but again, that's why he wasn't really a touchdown producer. You couldn't rely on him for that, but you could rely on him for the yards and the targets.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with James Cook, I think he looked more efficient towards the end of the year too. I think he started looking better as far as the run game goes. You mentioned he catches a lot of passes. So yeah, I like that pick. He is higher on my list. I just realized that we're sitting here with our names. I know. I did a little guest spot on Our Lads on Friday. Make sure you check that out. Our Lads Football. That's our OUR. But
I didn't even catch that either.
I'll be there Monday as well, talking fantasy football. But it still said JMark from when I was on there. Miranda, before we get to the rest of our lists, we should talk a little Underdog Fantasy. So why don't you tell people about it?
Absolutely. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. And Underdog Fantasy just launched Underdog Streaks. Hit your first 2 pick'em entries and then go streaking.
We're going streaking.
We're doing it. If you can get a 11-0 run, 11-0 run, you can win 1,000 times. Plus, Best Ball Mania is live now with 15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. I've been talking about this for months now.
Absolutely. All you got to do is sign up with promo code OFFSGPN to claim your special pick plus a first-time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code OFFSGPN. We're also brought to you by Odds Jam, a new sponsor. Odds Jam is your one-stop shop for beating the sports books. I saw this, read about it, and I got really excited. Odds Jam uses millions of data points across every U.S. and Canadian sports book to show you the best value plays for the money. Their line shopping tool shows you the best price for any bet you want to make across countless sports books, not just DraftKings and FanDuel, but even like BetOnline, Bovada, Cut, and many more. Their arbitrage tool will find opportunities where you can bet both sides of the same prop on different sports books to guarantee a positive ROI. Their new fantasy tool also features the highest EV plays relative to the sportsbook odds, allowing you to crush sites like the one we just talked about, Underdog Fantasy. They even have a tool for finding the best sign-up bonuses. If you're interested in trying out OddsJam, you can get a 7-day free trial using our link. And don't forget to enter promo code SGPN to get 35% off for the first month of your subscription. The link is just oddsjam.com, promo code SGPN. All right, we are back, and we're on to number 10, right?
Yeah, we are.
All right, and I'm leading for whatever reason. This feels very odd to be leading, but my number 10, I'm probably going to get shit on for my whole list, and it'll include putting this guy lower than he finished last year, and that's Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to kind of...
I can't handle your list. Okay.
He did finish 10th last year. I missed 2 games. He's going at ADP of 6 this year. I think Gibbs is very talented. I just Monty is still there. I still think he's going to play a part, and he's going to vulture touchdowns.
They have an offense where they can both be relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why he's in my top 12.
Is better.
I think, yeah, he came on with a lot of spark last year. I think it
takes a lot of spark.
I think he's not going to do bad. There's going to be a little.
I think he's going to do better. Not natural regression. We're not talking about natural regression.
We are
Gibbs.
just a little
We're not.
Regression. just a tiny bit to knock him down to that 10th spot, which is where he finished last year. He missed 2 games. He finished 10th. That's just where I have him.
I have him so much higher.
I figured you would. You're kind of a Gibbs gal.
I kind of am. And this Lions offense is just, it's something that we should be a little bit scared about.
I ain't scared. We got the clause, the law. Come on.
I know, but it just, everything that they're doing, it's
KK going to destroy them fools. Caleb Williams. He just looks like a guy that would go by KK.
Why?
He just goes with his pink lipstick that he wears and his fingernail polish. He's like, just call me KK.
Okay. Well, alrighty then. My number 10 is Derrick Henry. Now he's on the Ravens. It's so weird to me to see him not be on the Titans.
I know.
But he's going to another just run heavy offense. And I expect that we're going to see him do well on this offense. I know that, you've got Lamar Jackson, who is basically their running back, their main rusher.
Yep.
But I think that Henry's going to come in and do just fine there. And we're going to see him continue to succeed there. I have his last year's stats, but they're kind of irrelevant. I mean, it's just what he's capable of, I guess. And he was averaging for the last several years with the Ravens, he was averaging close to that 1,500 rushing yards, an average of 220 receiving yards.
He was really hard for me to place where in this top 12 because I think you have to put him in there. But he was difficult for me to place.
And he finished 8th last season. He's going at an ADP of 10, and that's exactly where I have him.
So you just copied ADP.
I didn't. I ranked first.
The reason I'll talk about Derrick Henry because he is my number 9. So we're very close on him there. The reason I had trouble placing him is obviously Derrick Henry is very talented. He's about to turn 30 though. So there is that, and he's got a lot of miles on them wheels. They've ran him hard. And so I don't know exactly. I expect the Ravens to run him, but maybe not as hard because they do have Lamar. If Keaton Mitchell is healthy, they do like throwing him in, or they did last year as a rookie anyways, for some big plays. He has some big playability. I think Derrick Henry's probably going to go down in yards from last year, but up in touchdowns. That's how I kind of feel it. So I think it's going to kind of be a nice balance. That's why I have him at 9, right around kind of where he finished, maybe a little lower. But I still think Derrick Henry's a dog. I think he's kind of a freak athlete because he is getting older. They have ran him, and everybody said he's not going to be able to maintain consistency if you keep running him that much. But he has. I mean, he has maintained consistency. He's still been a beast in the backfield. So, I also think he'll catch a little bit less passes. He's not known necessarily for his pass catching, but he can catch passes out of the backfield. He did get fantasy points that way. So I think he'll have a little less on this Ravens team that is either going to run the shit out of the ball or try a deep ball, in my opinion.
Alrighty.
So we were close there. You had him at 10. I got him at 9. Who's your number 8?
Or
your number 9?
My number 9.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon.
Okay.
Yep. Again, this is weird too. Seeing him on the Texans. He's currently going around an ADP of 15, and he finished 5th last season. I have him regressing a little, but he's going to the Texans. This gives CJ Stroud another target. I feel like this is also a similar role to his role that he had with the Bengals.
Yes. Yeah.
So I feel like the transition is going to be easy for him. And, me and my bias for the Texans right now and CJ Stroud. But I do think that this is going to be a good fit for him. And like I said, giving Stroud another target there. And he is a back that he is a pass catching back.
Yeah. Yeah. He can.
I mean, with the Bengals last season, he had 52 receptions.
Yeah. We're close again.
Is he your number 8?
He is my number 8.
Oh,
yes.
Geez.
So
okay.
we're very close here. So I'll just take over and start talking about Joe Mixon and add a little bit. I know he's dropped to the ADP of 15, finished 5th last year. And I hear a lot of people point to, well, the Texans have a lot of weapons. Well, so did the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals had Jamar Chase,
Yeah.
T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd in the slot
and he's
there. I mean,
still, and Mixon was still, 52 receptions.
yeah.
With all those targets.
So yeah, he was in an offense with a lot of weapons. Maybe they didn't have the tight end usage that the Texans use with Dalton Schultz, but I don't think that's going to take enough away from him in the run game and still getting passes out of the backfield. I know they still have Dameon Pierce there, who looked great 2 years ago. Last year seemed to fall off the face of the planet.
He's not a Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I think he will again take a back seat just like he did last year. He'll take a back seat, and I like Joe Mixon a lot. I think he gets slept on a lot, and dropping to ADP of 15 doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But yeah, Sports Nonsense Whiskey saying, I see Mixon getting most of the pass catching over Pierce. I agree. Pierce not necessarily known for those good hands out of the backfield, or just even he's kind of a thumper, when you get him in the open space. I don't think he's as good as Joe Mixon, even though Joe Mixon is older. So yeah, I think ADP of 15 it's a head scratcher to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, and if you can get him there, well, then pick him up.
Oh,
because I think that's great value.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that was my number 8. Who's your number 8?
Travis Etienne.
Okay.
Which I feel like did you exclude him?
I did not exclude him.
Oh, he's higher up?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm trying to figure out who you don't have since you had people. And as I get closer to the top of my list, I just can't imagine you not having some of these people in your top 12. But anyway, I've got Travis Etienne.
If you could just imagine.
Currently going at an ADP of 9. He finished 3rd last season. I have him going ranked at the 8th spot there. I've got to talk about some of the negatives with him first, but then talk about why I'm not 100% concerned. Because they are talking about doing more with Tank Bigsby.
Yeah.
So I feel like that might take a little bit away. But he is another heavy pass catching back, 58 receptions last season. He also, for rushing, he is their rushing touchdown machine.
Yeah, their top dog. And the familiarity with Trevor Lawrence and bailing him out when he needs to, because they played together in college. I think that is a little underrated sometimes, that you don't talk about. This is a guy that when he's in trouble, he's used to a little dump off to the running back. And
between rushing and receiving yards, he had 1,448 yards total there.
Yeah, I like it.
I know that they are going to get Bigsby more involved, but I don't think it's going to be enough to pull Etienne out of the top.
I'm not worried about that at all. SMK Teach tuning in. How's it going? Saying Mixon ADP of 15 is just because he's another year older.
That doesn't always matter.
I get it, but I don't get it as well. So if that makes sense, I'll get to my number 7 in just a second. But first, let's talk about Rhythm real quick. If you're not checking out AI picks and props from Rhythm, you're missing out. They just dominated the British Open, and their college football product is about to drop. You can even customize your own betting models easily using Rhythm's tools. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, and they're giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. Imagine the regret you're going to have if you win your office survivor pool, but you didn't enter one that was going to pay out $16 million. And of course, circuit contests have no rake. They're not greedy. It's all for you. And if you don't have a trip booked for Las Vegas yet before football starts, don't worry about it. Well, the Ultimate Contest Weekend is a great time to go out, hang out with Ryan and Sean, and enjoy some of the open bar events. You know we love an open bar at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through the 24th, and use promo code SGP15 to save 15% on your hotel room for sign-up weekend. You can sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with promo code SGP. All right. Well, going into number 7. And I'm a little concerned or perturbed that our lists are so close.
Why?
Because I have Travis Etienne.
Oh my goodness.
I have him at number 7.
So the last Henry, Mixon, and ETN.
I value them just a little bit more than you.
And I value them just a little bit less than you.
Yeah.
Not to say that they're not valued because they're in my they're
They're in
all
your top
top 10.
12.
Well, and they're in the top 10 of
Yeah.
my 12. So
But no, I think you laid out a great case. I think that ETN's still going to get a lot of carries. I think he's going to get a lot of catches still. Calvin Ridley left. I don't know if I obviously opened some target share. I don't know if that necessarily goes to ETN though, because they bring in Brian Thomas, the rookie. But I do feel that ETN is a hell of a player. He's still a really young guy. There hasn't been a lot of change there as far as their scheme and everything. I think he's still going to be utilized in the same sense that he was last year. And you said he finished third last year. That means we're shitting on him a little bit, saying that he's going to finish 8th for you, 7th for me. But I think when you're in those top, aside from I guess the top guy that we saw last year, those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all those guys throughout the year, they just kind of do this. The graph goes up and down. They pass each other and whatnot.
I also want to point out though, we're not shitting on him because he finished. I'm not saying that he's gonna.
We just shat on him.
No, we're not, because he finished third based on who was healthy.
Yeah, right. And we don't predict
these other
injuries.
running backs who I do have higher, if they're all healthy and fine like they are right now and they stay that way, I have them finishing above him.
Yeah, you got to make your lists and draft your guys not thinking about injury. I feel like.
It's based on who's healthy right now.
The past 2 years, maybe 3, I guess, past 3 years going into drafts going, Christian McCaffrey's injury prone. He's probably going to get injured again. Has bit you in the ass. Like if you've gone in with that mentality, which I have. I can't do it anymore. You can't go in with that injury mentality of, oh, this guy's going to get injured, because if they don't, it's going to bite you in the ass. So, all right. So that was my number 7. Who's your number 7?
Kyron Williams. You don't even have him?
Nope, I don't have him.
You also shat on him all last season.
I did.
And he finished.
I just realized I gave you a silent response there with thumbs down. And if people are listening to podcasts, they're like, what's going on?
No, he's booing me silently. Silent boos. No, you shat on him all last season. And he came in 6th overall. So you missed out on a slice of that pie.
I did.
You definitely did.
Not worried about it though.
You're not?
Nope.
Because of Blake Corum?
I think that's part of it. I think Blake Corum will get involved. I also think you're going to have a little natural regression.
You and your natural regression.
He had so many games with 2 touchdowns, and I just don't think it's going to maintain. That's not going to be the same consistency. That's just my opinion.
He had what?
A lot of games with 2 touchdowns.
Well, maybe he doesn't have 2 touchdowns every game, but he wasn't a top producer of touchdowns.
Yeah. No, nope. He's a no for me, dog.
Oh man, his average fantasy value, his average fantasy points that he brought in last season were 19.9. How can you pass up on that?
He's gonna finish with 11 per game this year.
11 per game.
Yeah,
I'm gonna hold you to that because you're putting him down there pretty low. If you're having him at 11,
you held me to it last year. You can hold it to me again this year.
You're talking about he might not even make the top 20 at that.
Last year, I will admit I was wrong on him, but I think this year,
so he's going to go from RB6 to outside the top 20.
Outside the top 12. I'm not going to say outside the top 20.
Yeah, but you have people outside the top 12 for me who are still averaging 14 points a game.
We're averaging.
Would still average.
Not still averaging.
I said would still average.
Yeah, Sports Nonsense Whiskey. Write that down. We will. She held me to it all year last year when I said that I was not a big Kyron fan and that he couldn't
you were
maintain
proven
it.
wrong.
And I was proven wrong, but I'll eat shit again if I'm wrong again. I'm not gonna change. I'm not gonna change a horse midstream. Never change.
When have you not learned from Kyle Pitts? You hung on to him. And you would not stay away from him, and he bit you in the ass.
And he's back.
He's not back.
Pitts is back.
I don't care.
Baby.
This is not the tight end episode. We will argue this. I am not getting on the Kyle Pitts train.
He's not going to be in your top 12.
I don't know.
He's going to be in my top 12. He might.
Once you get past like 6, 7,
he might be tight end 1
they're irrelevant.
He might be tight end 1 for me.
Ew.
We'll see. Ew.
And I would not follow that tight end list.
Oh man. Should we move on to number 6?
No, just
Oh, you're
just
not
for
done.
reference on Kyron Williams, he's also he had 32 receptions last season, so he is targeted there too, and I think that's
and
it's really
Blake Corum's
important.
going to fill that
Most
in
leagues
perfectly.
are PPR or half PPR
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Standard is kind of
Pretty much out. It's not fun.
it is fun. It's more interesting because you have to strategize even more, I feel like. But
I like to see the points.
I
I
know
like to see
you.
high scoring fantasy points.
I know. I hung out with Mr. Nick Fortune last night, and he was talking about how there's been some mumblings of in his league wanting to get rid of the kicker in defense and add in more flex spots, and that seems to be more of a norm too.
Mhm.
Kickers in defense are the way of the dodo, I guess.
Yeah, I just drafted, which my draft is finally done.
Oh, we should read our teams.
I just drafted my kicker in the Scott Fishbowl. And as my last one. Some people were taking him like 4 or 5 rounds left, and they were picking up a kicker, and I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
Give me another wide receiver or a running back. I'll take a kicker at the very end, and I was the last team to get a kicker.
Hopefully you didn't draft Detroit Lions kicker Michael Badgley.
I drafted the Bears kicker.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that might be a mistake. We'll see.
We'll see. Well,
Michael Badgley out for the season. He had a hamstring injury during training camp.
For me, when I'm in a league where we have a kicker, I am dropping and picking up kickers every week, just about, unless I have like the number 1 kicker and he's doing solid.
There's not a lot of difference. I forget the point differential, but last year from the number 1 to the number 10, not a lot of difference. Not enough to make or break your season.
Put enough importance on that, even though it is a spot that we have to
you have to fill
roster. Yeah. So
that does bring me. I mentioned Michael Badgley, but the Lions signed a kicker in the offseason, and that was the face of the UFL, Jake Bates, the kicker from the Michigan Panthers, who is bombing 60-yarders. Now, I don't know if he can play outdoors. He struggled a little bit more with inconsistency outdoors, but in the dome for Detroit, he was kicking those 60-yarders pretty consistently. SMK Teach saying Kyron won me my league last year. Not this year, buddy. Not this. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey,
just kidding.
For all of us who got Kyron at really good value in a keeper league or something,
just not going to change a horse midstream.
You're so stubborn and you're wrong. Wrong.
One thing we forgot to I meant to bring it up as kind of some news at the beginning of the show. Jordan Love got paid. Jordan Love, 20 starts, mind you. He's only started 20 games. Is now the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
If that doesn't show you the faith that they have in him,
it blows my mind.
Let's hope he doesn't.
No. Let's hope he does. Let's hope he is a bag of shit.
Well,
and plays
except
terribly.
that for fantasy, I've started drafting him.
Well, I would much rather see the Packers suck than your fantasy team succeed.
I know.
Sorry.
I don't think outside of Love, like, what is there to talk about?
No, I just wanted to point that out.
No. I meant on the Packers. Like, there's nobody exciting. Nobody excites me on that team.
I bet you Packers fans would disagree with you there. You're not excited to see what Josh Jacobs is going to do in a different uniform?
Well, there is a Josh Jacobs debate we'll probably have at some point this season, because I've always valued him higher than you. Even when he was like doing super well, some of his really good seasons, you were shitting all over him, just kind of like Kyron Williams.
Okay, but for Josh Jacobs, it was because of his average yard per carry was terrible. He just happened to have
a lot of
games where he blew up and got 2-yard carries or caught a lot of passes because he had to bail out the quarterback. So I thought there was some variances there that were going to lead to inconsistencies for fantasy football. And we saw that last year. We saw it lead to inconsistencies in fantasy football. So you can't necessarily say I was wrong. She's like, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
SMK Teach pitch getting rid of kicker and defense in his league for 2 years in favor or for more flex or even bench. Finally got rid of the kicker, but keep getting voted out on defensive. Here's what I do. We kind of did it in one of our leagues. If you're going to have a defense, pump up the points a little bit.
Make it fun.
So like forced fumble
Mhm.
is 2 points, fumble recovery is 2 points. So if your team forces a fumble, recovers it, and scores a touchdown, you get 10 points, 10-point swing. That kind of makes it a little more interesting, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I get it. I mean, people want points, and you get more of your points from your flex spots and everything. So where are we at? Number 5? No, number 6.
Number 6.
Number 6 for me, guy you already talked about, James Cook.
Okay.
I 100% think that, with Stephon Diggs going out of town, there's a lot of targets to pass around. Yes, I think Dalton Kincaid's going to get some of those. Keon Coleman's going to get some of those. But I do think James Cook is going to get more targets as well, which will lead to more catches. And this is a guy, like I said, towards the end of the year, he seemed to run more efficiently. He had more big runs, more runs of over 10 yards in the second half of the season than he did the first half. This is a guy that I think I considered putting him in the top 5. I struggled with that between the 5 and the 4, 5, 6 spot, I guess, is kind of where I was slotting him. My top 3 were kind of locked in. But I'm very high on James Cook this year. His ADP is currently 14. Just like Mixon, I think that's too low. I think
I think it's too low, but
maybe he doesn't finish 6 where I have him. Maybe he's more of, where'd you have him?
11.
Maybe he's more of 11, but I still think he's a top 12 running back.
I agree
way.
that he's a top 12.
And he's not being drafted as such. And so, I mean, I'm going to swipe him on every league that I can because I think he's going to have a hell of a year. Plus, it's the Bills. Their offense is going to be good.
It is.
I mean, yeah, Josh Allen's going to take some of the rushing. Yeah, he's going to take some of the touchdowns, but they're still going to be good. And I think if you're Bills coaching staff and owners, you want Josh Allen to start taking less hits because if he's gone, you're fucked, right? If he gets hurt, you're fucked. So you need to start telling him, don't run this one in. Let's give it to Cook. Let's let him run this one in. Just my opinion. Number 6 for you.
Saquon Barkley.
Saquon.
Saquon.
I don't know.
Saquon.
I say Saquon.
It's probably Saquon.
Saquon.
I mispronounce everything, so it's probably Saquon.
I think it's Saquon this.
He's currently going at an ADP of 5, so I do have him a spot lower than that. Last year he finished as RB12. He's on the Eagles now.
Which is weird.
It is weird to think of that.
Especially because the Giants-Eagles rivalry.
Yeah, but he is playing on the best offensive line he's ever played on.
Facts.
So I feel like he's going to have a killer year. And I just couldn't put him above. Maybe my number 5 could be interchangeable. And I'm sure you're going to absolutely agree when you hear my number 5. But I just couldn't put him above who I have 1 through 4 for sure.
Okay. That makes sense. Number 5 for me, Jonathan Taylor. We didn't get a huge sample size of what it would look like when Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson are both on the field at the same time. So I do think that Anthony Richardson could take rushing yards and rushing touchdowns away from him. But I still think Jonathan Taylor is a hell of a running back. I think he catches a shit ton of passes out of the backfield. So I did these based on half PPR. I assume you did as well. He's going to get those PPR points. This is a guy that he's 2 years, I believe, removed from rushing for 18 touchdowns. He had some injuries last year. I don't think that's going to be a pattern. So yeah, he's my number 5.
I have him higher, and I'll argue it later.
You'll argue it. Are you really going to argue over several spots? Because he is my top 5. Yeah. I will argue. All right. Well, who do you have at number 5?
Jahmyr Gibbs, which I know you're shitting all over
a
him.
Gibbs gal.
I am, and you're shitting all over him. I don't get it.
This is disrespectful to David Montgomery.
No, you can't hold on to David Montgomery because he was a Bears running back.
I can too.
Yeah, I know you're doing it, but I'm not saying that David Montgomery isn't gonna.
He also played college ball in the state of Iowa. I mean, there's that. But go on.
I'm not saying David Montgomery isn't gonna be
just
relevant.
Continue your shit on David Montgomery rant.
Jahmyr Gibbs is where it's at, and I like everything that the Lions are doing. I think they're gonna have a really good season. They've also made some O-line upgrades. So I just feel like Gibbs is going to do better than last season. He had 945 rushing yards, 316 receiving yards, total yards, that's 1261. But he had 52 receptions and 11 touchdowns between rushing and receiving. He did have one receiving.
He did have a lot of catches. I do remember
he is
that.
a target, even though, they have Amon-Ra, they've got Sam Laporta, they've got so many weapons, but they're doing stuff with all of them.
Yeah.
And Gibbs got a ton of receptions.
It surprised me that Monty didn't get more receptions out of the backfield.
You got to talk about Monty.
Well, because
but
for the Bears, he was so good.
But that's not how they're.
If you believe the Jameson Williams hype is real, that'll take some targets away.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Sports Nonsense Whiskey with me saying Monty's still getting.
Yeah, but he's not getting the yards. He's not getting the yards that Gibbs is getting.
It was funny just to watch him vulture Gibbs touchdown after Gibbs touchdown. Gibbs runs him down the field. Bring in Monty. Like, as a fantasy manager, it's a little frustrating. No, I get what you're saying. For me, he's going to finish a little bit lower. He's going to have a little bit of natural regression. And I know you hate that word.
I do. Natural regression, so I can't rank them where they should be. Natural regression, so I can't rank them where they should be.
I ranked him exactly where he finished last year. I don't see him getting worse.
That's not
but
regression.
I don't see him getting better. You're absolutely right. That's not a lot of regression.
It's actually better. You actually have him doing better because if you have him where he finished last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't have him doing as better as you do, obviously. Should we move on to number 4?
We should.
My number 4. So Kramer Dog of the Sports Gambling Podcast made a case for why this guy is going to do bad. Saquon Barkley.
Oh.
Now Kramer, the Giants fan,
is he just
Saquon
bitter? Is he bitter?
I think it's kind of like when you see the ex-girlfriend and you're like, oh my God, you see her new boyfriend. That guy, he's such a slouch. He wouldn't know how to fix anything and yada yada. Like, you just shit on the new boyfriend. I think it's a little like that, personally, because I think Saquon Barkley is going to have a hell of a year.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to. Now, his point was that Saquon Barkley scored so many fantasy points because he had to carry the Giants. My thought is, everybody knew Saquon had to carry the Giants, and he still did really well. Like, he was uncoverable in the pass game. He was, scheming for Saquon. Yeah. He was uncoverable, catching the ball out of the backfield. He was tough to stop in the run because he's got a lot of I don't know, just finesse when he's running the ball. I guess is the best way to put it. I don't think he's going to take a step back just because he's on the Eagles. Yeah, they got a lot of weapons, but that's also a lot of weapons the defense has to pay attention to, where they can't just focus all their focus on Saquon Barkley. And I think the tush push, we talked in a quarterbacks episode that I think Jalen Hurts is going to probably drop his rushing touchdowns by half. I think Saquon Barkley gets those. And I also think he's going to run the ball very well. That offensive line is much better than the Giants offensive line, despite losing Jason Kelce. So yeah, I got him at my number 4 spot. I think he's going to have a really good year. I had him as high as number 2 at one point when I was looking at my list, but then I couldn't do it. There's 2 guys I had to put above him.
My number 4 is bijan.
Disrespectful, but go on.
I told you when we started the show, my 2 through 4 are it was really hard to rank these guys, but I have reasons. But my 2 through 4 are all kind of just right there. Like, I'd be happy with any of them as a 2-ish.
Shout out to Serial. Good morning, Dankers.
Good morning.
Sorry, Serial. Zeke is not on our top 12 lists. Unless he's in your top 3. I don't want to.
I haven't told my top 3 yet.
Okay, so he might.
I didn't know. I was counting on him joining, so maybe I put him as my RB1. Okay, so bijan.
Are you also feeling like in the morning the vocal cords aren't quite as warmed up as when we do our
vocal cords are just fine.
Oh, okay.
I'm always congested with allergies in the morning. Yeah. I didn't take an allergy pill this morning, so there's that. He's currently going at an ADP of 3, finished as RB9 last season, his rookie season. He brought in 976 rushing yards, 487 receiving yards, combined total of 1463. He had 58 receptions and only 8 total touchdowns.
On
But
an inefficient as shit offense that Arthur Brown didn't know how to use, or Arthur Smith, not Arthur Brown,
yes,
didn't know how to use his players.
Mhm.
There were games where Bijan got like a carry and that was it. And it's like, what are they doing?
So I have him here.
Mm-hmm.
I told you my 2 through 3, it was difficult, but I have him in my top 4 because they are saying that coaches want to use him like Christian McCaffrey,
Mm-hmm.
and I expect his usage and everything to go up from last season. So that's where I've got him. I don't see him finishing 9th. I see him finishing well above 9th this season.
Yeah, I agree. As you'll hear on my list.
Mhm.
So we're at number 3, which is not Bijan Robinson for me,
So you have him as number 2.
or number 1.
You do
don't
not
know.
have him above Christian McCaffrey.
You don't know that.
I just know this. You should not have him above Christian McCaffrey.
Maybe I just wanted to make a wild take,
Oh,
spicy
Jesus.
take for a shot of rye whiskey. Breece Hall for the Jets, obviously, former Iowa State Cyclone, even though we're not really Cyclone fans. But Breece Hall is a hell of a talented running back, in my opinion. I think he had a bit of a down year last year. You know, he was coming off that injury. They didn't even know if he was going to play in those first several games. And he started slow, but he still ended up finishing 4th. And that's with terrible quarterback play. Now, you know me. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to come in and have great quarterback play. But let's say he is at least a little bit of the ghost of the Aaron Rodgers that used to be on the Packers. That's still elevated play over Zach Wilson and the other bums they had playing for them last year. So I think Breece Hall benefits from that, from having a quarterback that you have to plan for. Whereas Zach Wilson, it's like, yeah, we're not worried about him. And so that'll open the run game a little bit more. He still catches passes out of the backfield. He's already guaranteed that he's running for over 1,000 yards this year. He's a little bit healthier.
That's going to be easy for him to do.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. But there's been some questions about that. And I think Breece Hall is set up to have a monster year.
No, yeah, he's healthy. So I have him ranked a little bit. I have him ranked higher than this than you do. But he feels like he's back to his old self. He's been studying CMC closely, watching his like plays and everything.
He needs to start studying some Walter Payton clips. That's what he needs to do.
Well, he's been studying.
I know Christian McCaffrey's good.
Studying Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is amazing. You're making me feel like he's not your number 1, and I just.
He's no Walter Payton. He is amazing, but he's no Walter Payton.
I'm not comparing him to that. But yeah, people are talking about Breece Hall being on the verge of Christian McCaffrey territory.
Interesting. What people are saying this?
People. I know people.
She's like, my sources.
My sources are telling me.
I know a lot of really smart people.
Shut up.
They all say. Anyways, go on. Breece Hall is on the verge. Do you want to talk about your number 3 or keep talking about Breece Hall?
No, I want to talk about Breece Hall here.
What's he ranked for?
I just have a fun fact.
Okay, what's your fun fact?
Being from Iowa and all, being in Iowa, from Iowa, us.
Is he from Iowa?
No,
I didn't think so.
But do you know who his roommate was?
Who? Brockhard Purdy?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so they're pretty good friends, but they won't talk. They're so competitive too, though, and they're not talking to each other until after their game against each other.
That's fair. You don't want to, I guess, fraternize with the enemies before battle. After, if you're still both alive, then you can. But who
them
them, a lot of people have been saying. But I mean, if he wants to reach out to Brock Purdy, what a better person to give him tips on Christian McCaffrey. So
yeah,
you kind of laid your case for Breece Hall. Where is he on yours? Number 1?
2.
Number 2. Okay.
You number 1? Stop it.
I don't want to assume.
You should assume.
Okay. So who's
he's my number 2. My number 3 is Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
And here's why. You mentioned back in 2021, he had not thrown. He rushed for 18 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Um,
What year was it?
2021.
20. Okay.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
2021. So he is healthy, and they don't have Zach Moss. And just so you know, that 2021 year was the last year before they brought Zach Moss on. They had Zach Moss on the team 2022 and 2023.
Okay.
And in 2021, Jonathan Taylor healthy, no Zach Moss. He had 1,811 rushing yards, 360 receiving yards, total yards of 2,171, 40 receptions, 18 rushing touchdowns, and 2 receiving touchdowns.
Insane.
That is higher than CMC numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So if he is healthy, they don't have Zach Moss. We're back. He's back to his 2021 self. I'm excited to see what he could do this season.
I do think, though, Anthony Richardson plays a little part.
Well, yes, but here's the other thing.
He was not there in 2021.
He wasn't. So thank you for reminding me of my next point. He's got Anthony Richardson. And if Anthony Richardson is injured, do you know who he has?
Joe fucking
Flacco. And I am confident. I'm like, with either of those quarterbacks, that Jonathan Taylor is going to do just fine.
I did draft Joe Flacco in the Scott Fish Bowl. Toward the second to last round before my kicker. I was like, I'm going to grab Flacco.
just in case. I'll wait and see. I'm hoping Anthony Richardson stays healthy. But yeah, I just think that assuming he's fully healthy, he's got Zach Moss is gone. Well, let's look at 2021 and see what he did. And let's see if he can do that. And if he is, then he's going to either be RB1 or RB2. I have him at 3. Because I don't know, because that was a couple years ago. Yeah. But we could be looking at that.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
My number, that was your number 3, right?
Yeah.
Cyril just got a Flacco RPA card. Cyril's got some cool cards. My number 2, we already talked about him, Bijan Robinson. The coaching staff wants to use him like Christian McCaffrey. I think he still looked really good last year, right? He finished 9th, but there was some inefficient usage from the coaching staff. Those coaches are gone. It's a new staff. And he's got Kirk Cousins, not Desmond Ridder back there. So you got a guy that can utilize the running back in multiple different ways, whether it is opening the field with his passing ability and so then you can't just focus on the run, whether it's passing to Bijan Robinson. I mean, I just think that helps a shit ton when you have a competent quarterback, which Desmond Ridder was not. Sorry, Desmond Ridder. And this whole offense should be better. It should be a lot better. And Bijan finished 9th after a shitty, inefficient offense and some shitty, inefficient coaching, leading to bad inefficiency usages, I guess. And so I know Tyler's Algier.
Just pronounce it every way we've heard it, and one of them is right.
Exactly. I know he's still there and he's still a dude, but he's
there and he's still a dude.
He's there and he's still a dude, but his talent doesn't even come close to matching Bijan's. Bijan Robinson is a crazy talented running back, and I think that he could flirt with RB1 overall numbers. I couldn't fade the top guy, which I feel like is both of our tops, obviously, unless you're completely insane and lost your mind.
I think you're a little bit insane with your list, but let's just.
Well, I'm saying if you don't have the top guy as number 1.
Well, which is where we are, because I already talked about Breece Hall being my number 2.
Right.
And like I said, for anyone paying closer attention to my list than yours, my 2 through 4, I feel like I would be happy with either of them in the 2 spot.
So Bijan should be 2 on yours.
No.
Breece should be 3.
No. But Breece Hall was 2, Jonathan Taylor 3, Bijan 4. It was hard for me to rank them. I would take Breece and Jonathan Taylor over
Bijan. Interesting. I do agree with you a little bit that the Breece and Bijan especially are a little interchangeable. I agree with that. But number one,
CMC. How can you not have him as CMC? That's the
Yeah.
question. Give me an argument that isn't related to, well, he's had an injury history. That puts him out of the number one spot. He finished with like 102.6 fantasy points higher than the RB2, who was Raheem Mostert last season.
Right.
102.6 points, fantasy points higher.
and that's why I couldn't. You can't fade.
You can't make that up with anything
Yeah.
in
no.
your roster.
Yeah. No, you can't. 100 points is crazy lead from the
Mhm.
1 to the 2 spot. Usually you're looking at 100 points as like your 1 to your 10 spot.
Mhm.
Not for this
Not
guy.
from the 1 to 2.
He's he said
Just needs Zeke.
Serial would send you the Brees rookie with his college uni, but you'd have to have Zeke at 1.
All right. Zeke is my number 1.
No, but you said make a case. So
Make a case where he's not number 1.
here's my case. Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, Jonathan Taylor. I'll take those 3, even though I also had Saquon. But those 3 younger guys who have improved offenses, I believe,
Mhm.
this year, and could be just complete dogs. So there is an opportunity here where if CMC slips some and a guy like Bijan does,
Or Jonathan Taylor.
or
I feel like Jonathan Taylor, if he's healthy and he can be his 2021 self, I just told you numbers that were
Mhm.
higher than CMC.
yeah, or Brees. I mean, any of those guys that are younger, they could, take another step forward, while CMC, a little bit older, maybe takes a tiny step back, and that interchanges it. There's also everything that's going on with the 49ers. I mean, their tackle wants a new contract. Brandon Ayuk wants a new contract. They're both currently holding out. Well, no, Ayuk is at camp. He wants traded, though. Trent Williams wants a new contract. Debo
Does he
has
want
injury.
traded, or is he just saying that so he gets his contract, just like
I mean, he's been talking with
Debo did?
with Washington a lot, their quarterback, and saying like they don't want me, So maybe he wants to play with Jaden Daniels. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't know. But anyways, the 49ers, there's a lot of question marks there of these players. Debo's injury history, George Kittle's injury history, and being a little bit older, that could make the offense in general just a little bit more inefficient than it was last year. It was a very well-oiled machine. I don't think it's going to happen. I still believe in the Niners and what Kyle Shanahan can do. But you said make a case. That's my case of how
that's
Christian
how
McCaffrey
he
could
might
take a step back
to RB2.
Yeah, right. Big drop.
Big drop
to number 2.
I just want to give you his stats from last season. He had 1,459 rushing yards, 564 receiving yards, total yards 2,023. He had 67 receptions. Do you know who had the only other running back who had higher receptions than him?
Jahmyr Gibbs?
Brees Hall.
Brees Hall, okay.
76.
Oh yeah, Gibbs had what, 40 something?
Gibbs had
Go and
52.
52, okay.
Mhm. So, but yeah, his 67 receptions, 14 rushing touchdowns, and 7 receiving touchdowns. Average fantasy points 22.4.
Which is insane. If you
Mm-hmm.
can count on almost every week having 22 points.
He's coming off of a career high for rushing yards. So, being his career high, is he going to do better? Or do you think, I could see him doing a little less just because of everything that is going on?
Yeah. Cyril has a good point. I should have known that was going to circle back to Brees Hall. It's a good point. It was predictable, but she's such a Gibbs gal that I immediately thought, oh, she's going to rub Gibbs in since I have him lower.
No, Brees Hall is, I know, obviously the quarterback situation isn't going to be the same that he had.
Didn't matter last year, though. Last year, it was a shitty quarterback situation.
I know, but he was targeted that much. Do you think Rodgers is going to target him that much?
If he's smart, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if I would say Rodgers.
He already missed out on something he was supposed to be, and it was an unexcused absence because he went to Egypt.
The OTAs to go to Egypt.
Yeah.
But he's had this trip planned for a long time. Well, you have been in the league for what, 16 fucking years?
He's not.
You know when training camp and OTAs start. Plan it at a different time. This is a
he
guy
can't because he did an ayahuasca thingy, however you say it.
Yeah, this is a guy that, he thinks he's bigger than the game.
Yeah. His ego is just insane, and it's all about him.
Yeah, I agree. I saw there's a lot of talk about him and Garrett Wilson getting in a fight at training camp, but I mean, it didn't really look like didn't really look like a fight. They were getting on the same page. It looked more like, but it is kind of funny what they try to make stories out of. Nick says he's disappointed. He had breakfast waiting for me at 9 a.m. and I didn't show up. He did say he was making waffles and bacon, I believe he said. And I said, well, I'll be here at 9.
That sounds good. We haven't eaten.
I know. I'm getting a little hungry here. The coffee might have me a little jittery since we haven't eaten. Miranda, that was our top 12 list. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just I like we had enough differences. Some of ours did follow pretty closely.
Yeah.
But I think that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
We're kind of on the same page as some people, but there's some big differences as well that I just think you're crazy for. So
there's some I think you're crazy for. So Kyron Williams will finish outside the top 12.
No.
Bet.
No. Well, we're gonna track that. We're definitely coming back to that. I'm not letting that go.
Thursday, we're gonna do our
and I better not see you draft him in any league.
You won't. Thursday. That's not a concern. Thursday, we're gonna be talking about wide receivers, top 12 wide receivers. Wednesday, maybe we have a little impromptu roundtable. We'll see. I was trying to plan it for
We're trying to get another fantasy roundtable out there.
Yeah, I was trying to plan it for the week after, but a lot of people will be on their way to the Expo, Fantasy Football Expo, which we will miss this year.
I know.
Unfortunately.
I'm disappointed.
And then the week after that, we're in Arizona.
Somebody's got to do hot takes for us at the Expo.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
Well, nobody's going to be as fun passing out whiskey like we were. So sorry, y'all. There will be no free whiskey at the Expo this year. I'm as disappointed as you are. Trust me. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
My top 12 list is better.
Get out of here. My coffee actually is gone. I need
Mine's just about gone.
Just about gone. All right. Going once, going twice.
Sold.